Hell or High Water is the story of two bank robbers and the two police officers who were on the case to try and catch them. Let's get right into it. The cinematography is beautiful in this film, and that doesn't fluctuate throughout. It's quite consistent. The camera work really works for the narrative to communicate the mood of the scene. It's a lot busier when there's more action, it's a lot slower when it's more dramatic. But even in the action sequences, the cinematographer is able to still create tension and create that vibe without having to use cut after cut after cut after cut, as we see in a lot of contemporary action films. So you can still actually see what's going on, which I really appreciated. The acting was fantastic in this film, specifically Jeff Bridges and Chris Pine. Jeff Bridges, I really loved him as the sheriff. He has this really thick, authentic accent, which really translates very well. And his chemistry with his partner creates some of the comic relief throughout the film, which also becomes quite more dramatic, and that kind of evolution is really quite fantastic. The best bit about this movie for me was definitely the concept, which became quite apparent early on in the film. There's a really interesting contrast between the two characters, the two bank robbers and the two police officers, and sometimes it shows their scenes back to the back where they're in the same kind of situations. One example comes from a hotel room. It goes from the bank robbers in the hotel room to the police officers in the hotel room, and you kind of get that juxtaposition about are they so different, are they similar, and it kind of really accentuates that really well. It's basically accentuating the contrast between the two characters in the film who are running from the law and the two characters in the film who represent the law. It's just a really interesting way of telling the story. The editing in this movie is good as well. It kept a nice flow to the story. And there are some cuts that are really well placed and meaningful as well. The soundtrack was also quite fitting. It had some decent tunes in it as well, which were appropriately and carefully placed. This film is a genuine modern western, and it's what a modern western should be. It's clearly respectful of existing western films and tropes, but it doesn't rely on that. It can still stand on its own. I like this movie quite a lot. I'm giving it a HD at an 8. An interesting story told in an interesting way with good performances, and quality comic relief and the right amount of comic relief in the right places. Aided with some fantastic camera work, this movie is definitely worthy of its Best Picture nomination. So that's what I thought of Hell or High Water. Feel free to agree, disagree, let me know down below. If you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe, do all that jazz, and until next time,